Are you and your dog struggling with reactivity? You're not alone. The good news is that we've created a completely new approach to managing your dog's reactivity, and it's available for you and your dog right now. Go to positively.com, click Take a Course, and choose Help Stop Reactivity to enroll in this game-changing online course for you and your dog today. That's positively.com. And now, on to the podcast. This is a real honor for me, having my next guest here, somebody who has influenced my life so much. I'm going to try not to cry because I think she really changed my life in many ways with her book, The Other End of the Leash. We have Patricia McConnell. I know so many of you have been asking for her. So many of you have been waiting for this. She is here. She is an author, speaker, applied animal behaviorist. She has authored so many incredible books and pamphlets. She is fascinated, she says, by the implications of our relationships with animals, including dogs. Her latest book, well, there is a fiction novel in the pipeline, but I'm going to let her tell you about that. But The Education of Will, which talks about Willie, her border collie, and about her life as well. It's just fascinating. Patricia McConnell, it is such an honor to have you here.
Oh, it's an honor to be here, Victoria. I'm just thrilled to be here. Really, I couldn't be. You've done so much good in the world. You've just done it brilliantly. So believe me, the honor is mine.
Well, I appreciate that because this is the Mutual Appreciation Society because, when I started off as a trainer, my mentors, where I learned, the people that I followed were very much kind of more of the old school. And I always thought it was a bit odd with the whole pack hierarchy thing, that it was fixed and dogs were coming into your home and trying to take over. But hey, that's how I learned. That's how my elders and betters were teaching me. So it wasn't until I read your book, and I'd already started. I mean, I've been a trainer for 7 years, and I'd already started looking, filming It's Me or the Dog. But I then read The Other End of the Leash. And I remember putting this book down, and I had this epiphany. I was like, thank God. Because I felt like, because you write so beautifully, I felt like you were speaking directly to me. And that's what all your books do. You feel like, as the reader, that this book is being written and you're speaking directly just to the person who's reading it.
Thank you.
So it changed my life. It changed my approach, and obviously has helped me enormously in my career. And as I know that you've got a huge fan club, you write an amazing blog that I tell people you must go see at patriciamcconnell.com. You must read. The pictures, the photographs are beautiful. The stories are fabulous. There's so much great training and behavior information in there. But before we get to all of that, what made you become a dog trainer, a behaviorist? What got you into this?
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear your story sometime.
But this isn't a podcast about me. This is you.
I know. Well, okay, we'll switch sometime. But for now, first of all, I was one of those kids, and I'll bet you were too, who loved animals from the get-go. I did not have dolls. I had 52 stuffed animals at one point. Yes, I counted them, and I would actually line them up and like a classroom. And I had a little bulletin board kind of thing, and I would teach them things so this is when I was like 5. One of my earliest memories is sitting in the dirt in Arizona watching ants, just fascinated by, like, why is that one going there? And why is this one going there? And what's going on? And oh, look, that one looks different. And so I've always loved animals. I've always been fascinated by them. But I was born in 1948. And when I was, a teenager and thinking about what do I want to do, there was no such thing as an animal behaviorist, right? The only thing I could think, well, actually, first at 16, I remember saying, I'm going to marry a cowboy because, because, because that's because I could live on a ranch. And there'd be, I
Right.
loved horses. I love horses.
Mm.
So yeah, so I went at horses and dogs and there'd be, cattle and there'd be animals everywhere and I'd live in the country. And then it became like, well, maybe that's not going to happen. So then it became, well, I'll be a vet. And I really thought about that a lot. And then life happened. I got married I got engaged when I was, I think 18. I got married at 19 to a wonderful man, Doug McConnell. Um, and just got swept up in his life. And we ended up separating. And then I got a bunch of this job and that job. And I was working as an executive secretary in Madison, Wisconsin. And I was very unhappy. Things weren't going well there. And I went into my little tiny apartment and just started crying. And I took a day off. I spent 3 days crying. And I went, I have to work with animals. There has to be a way to do that. And so I decided I was going to go back to school. I went back to school to study animal behavior and psychology. And then through that, I got involved in the Animal Behavior Society. I met John Wright, who was an applied animal behaviorist. He's still out there. I love you, John. He was one of my mentors and inspirations. And then it just sort of, opened up a little tiny business in Black Earth, Wisconsin. And it just went from there.
So, if I may, that you write, and I think this is an expert from your latest book. Well, not your novel, not your fiction novel, but that. And I'd like to read this, if I may, which I feel
Yes,
kind of bad that I'm reading this and not you. But okay. This excerpt is Give Us a Voice, and it's about when you walked into a conference room. There were 15 men sitting around the table, and you needed to say, hey, I'm Patricia McConnell. I'm the administrative assistant. And everyone's sort of introducing themselves. There's all the participants as they're introducing themselves around the table. And soon it's going to be your turn to speak. You're terrified of speaking, but you practice in your head. I'm Patricia McConnell. I'm the administrative assistant. You're practicing this, and it comes to your turn. And I'm going to read this, if I may. I needn't have worried about speaking. The man to my right said his piece and then turned his head in my direction. As I was opening my mouth to say my name, the man to my left spoke over me. It hadn't occurred to him that I would introduce myself. As the recording secretary and the only woman in the group, I wasn't expected to have a voice. As I sat in stunned silence, my face hot with humiliation, the introductions continued around the table. I would like to tell you that I began my career solely because of a deep-seated passion for animals. It's true that this was my primary motivation, but underneath my love of animals, I was motivated by something else. After years of feeling like I had no voice, I wanted to be the one with something to say, even though I was afraid to do so. Everyone needs a voice and needs to be listened to, including dogs. Maybe I could give them that. Maybe I could give it to myself. Not only do I think that this is profound, and this is from the book, Education of Will, isn't it?
It is. And I'm so touched that you picked up on that and honored and touched. And I actually got a little teary listening to you read it. We're women.
Right. And I think that particularly resonated with me because I am a woman. I'm a woman in this industry. I'm a woman in the entertainment industry. I'm now an older woman in this industry, in the entertainment industry. And I have been marginalized and pushed out and, called all kinds of names and patronized and the whole thing. And so that really, really resonated with me.
I love that you read that. And of course it did. Because you are a woman, not just in the behavior world and the training world, but also in the entertainment industry. And you and I know how many years was it that every expert, famous dog trainer was a man? right? Every talk show had a man on anyway. I love that you brought that up. And the whole idea, so two things. One is the whole idea of giving voice to individuals who don't have it, I think is so important for people to want to understand in our own species, because we have a long way to go there, but also to give it to dogs, to be able to help people understand how important it is that dogs are sentient animals and they're like us, but they're not. And, people have asked me, what do people most need to know if they love dogs? And my answer is they need to learn to speak dog. They need to learn to read dogs and respect what they have to say. It doesn't mean you always like what they have to say. I don't like what, anybody always has to say. And so I think I love that you picked up on that. Because it's just really important. And the other thing, I don't think I mentioned this in the education of Will, but I was absolutely committed once I got into this business to making dog trainers into a respected profession. We have a long way to go, a long, long way to go, but it's better. It's not close to better enough. I mean, what is the average salary of a dog trainer, even one who owns her own business, right? And it's usually her, but it's also his, right? Dog trainers are, even though we are literally the people who can prevent dogs from being euthanized, we are literally the people who can keep people from being bitten. We are literally the people who can enhance what I, not objectively, completely subjectively, believe is one of the most miraculous relationships between two species that's ever existed on Earth. Where has there ever been a relationship? The only thing that's close is people and horses. But it's a miraculous relationship. And people who do everything they can to make that safe, because it's not always safe, and better, it's just really important. It's really important. And so I've been like AP, I think I first saw you at APDT, Victoria.
It was a long time ago, yes.
Oh my God. And I was like, I literally said to the person next to me, who is she? Anyway. So it's better, but it's still not better enough. But it is so heartening to see, the association of professional dog trainers and veterinarians starting to have a lot of respect for trainers and behaviorists. And so that's one of the things that also drove me.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I say to all my students at VSA that this business is a really important business, because if you think about it, you're going, unless you do group classes or you'll do virtual consultations, you are going into people's homes. Mm-hmm. You are meeting their families. You're learning about their deepest issues, their problems. You are sometimes faced with quite emotional decisions that need to be made about dogs or you're that mediator between people in the same family that might disagree. Mm-hmm. What a trainer provides is not just that support for dogs and to teach dogs the skills so that they can live in this weird domestic world, but we also provide the support system for people. Our job is like a supporter, a carer. And the most important thing, as you alluded to, is safety. We have in the UK over 10 million dogs now. We have in the United States over 90 million dogs now. If you have a dog, then you're part of the clan. But if you don't have a dog, your child, your family member is going to be around a dog at some point. And you better hope that that dog has been raised right.
That's right.
And that has some emotional stability, has some kind of teaching how to live in this domestic world. You better hope that, because your dogs will be dogs. And I feel like, I have my own ideas about where I think training is going, where it's been, where it is now, and where it's going. But when you first started out, how difficult was it for you to make inroads and to actually push the envelope, which is what you did. So not only are you coming to this industry as a woman, but you are also challenging some of the norms at the time, which is not easy. What was that like for you?
It was, well, it was hard. I mean, no surprise, right? It was hard. Being the best thing that happened is when I first started Dog's Best Friend, which was my business, which was just consulting at first, and then became also training classes, because so many of the people came to me because their dogs had become aggressive because their training classes were so violent back then, right? Lots and really aggressive leash pops and choke collars and prong collars, and got it screaming at dogs. And so the people who surprisingly, and I'm very grateful for, opened their arms up were veterinarians. It's like, oh, thank you. We have somebody to send our clients to, and most of them at that time, this isn't always true anymore, but most of them at that time were so straight about, we don't get trained in behavior, they get more now, but we don't, we don't know how to answer these questions. And this is serious stuff. And it helped that I had a PhD, it helped that I had a really solid academic background. So they felt like I was a colleague. So that was great. The pushback, on the other hand, as you can imagine, was extremely strong. You're just a cookie pusher. And that's not all gone. I mean,
no, it's not.
It's as a matter of fact, it's worse now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, things are a lot worse than they were 10, 15 years ago. There's sort of cycle. It was tipping the wrong way again. So there was a lot of like, you're just a cookie pusher and you don't really know how to deal with aggression. And I'd speak to like the sport dog hunting groups, and they could barely suppress eye rolling.
Right. They're still like that.
But the thing that the positive reinforcement, besides from vets, I know you got it too, that we both got, was this stuff works.
Yeah.
This stuff works. And I don't know if you've ever done classes, but I, as I mentioned, I started classes like a year or two in, because so many of my clients' dogs had growled at them or bitten them, and they never had before, but they were being thrown over with alpha rollovers. I had a client who said, well, we were told we needed a dominator and we need to do alpha rollovers. So they picked this little Aussie mix up by the scruff, and they were told they were the nicest people. They hated doing this. They picked her up and they threw her down on her back, and then said, she resists to that, and we don't know what to do. And I was like, oh, honey. And when I said, wait, here's another way, they were so grateful. And the dog was so grateful. And it works. And I earlier was alluding to, I don't know if you've ever done classes, but I swear, I used to teach tons of classes. And the first day of beginning dog training class, I literally thought, this is a disaster. This is never going to, this is chaos. They're barking and lunging, and this is just complete chaos. This is a disaster. And somewhere around week 2, when I changed my protocol, but around week 2 or 3, it was like, this stuff works. And I kept learning that every time. So we got so reinforced by the dog lovers and the dogs, and I'm sure that's what drives you, so much, is that's what drives us, right? It works, and it's good, and it makes you feel good, and it's just a better way to be in the world anyway, So that's what kept me going, and it's so much easier now. But again, this pushback is really scary.
It is scary, and I do think social media has a lot to do with it. And I think we're kind of back to the domination of the male dog trainers and social media as well, showing how to do things in a very cruel way. But also there are some really good up and coming females out there that
Oh,
are getting
yeah.
big on social media. One of them is one of my VSPDTs, Jamie Diaz, and she's showing people how to do it
Oh,
in the right way. She is getting a huge following, and that is
yay.
really great. So,
I'm writing that name down.
yeah. And
Jamie
yeah,
Diaz.
I had
I
her,
love that name. I don't know it yet, but now I do.
well, she's great, and
Yes.
she's out there every single day recording, and what's great about it is that it's just not edited, right? So she will just put the camera there, and then I mean, obviously, she puts out in minutes or a minute and a half, which is basically
Sure.
all that anybody on social media really wants to see,
Now, right.
and
Yeah.
and but in that respect, she just puts the camera there, and you what you see is what you get, right? It just is, and that's why I like her, because she's really showing the reality of what she does. And so I do feel it, and also for schools like VSA and also other schools out there, trainers are coming out with the right kind of knowledge in how to do things. So even though
Right.
we feel like there is a domination, and in certain areas, certainly where I
Yeah.
live, there's a domination of these dominance
Yeah.
trainers. They'll shove a
Yeah.
shock collar on and do all of that horrible stuff. But there is this web that is out there now of people that are doing it in the right way. And
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
that as much as I am disheartened by the cruelty that I still see out there, I am also really hopeful that they will have their day, and that it's just clinging on to the old ways, because that's what's happening. They're clinging on, and it feels like they're dominating, but actually they're not. It is moving as we understand more about dogs, as we become more aware. So I feel like the groundswell, that's what it's doing. It's swelling, and one day it will overtake.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And it is, oh, there's just so much that is so heartening. Both, and I don't want to leave out the male trainers,
No, because there are great male trainers out there. Yes.
The Patel's bucket game. Oh, that's just the best. And Michael, I'm going to say his name wrong. Shikashio, Michael, and all the books that are coming out.
Yeah.
So many great books on so many different things. The partner of mine is Dogwise. They are a publisher and also a distributor, and they distribute my books. But they have so many great books coming out, just almost weekly now. I mean, one of the challenges is keeping up, like reading. It's really hard to read all these books cover to cover now, isn't it? But
right.
What a high quality problem. So yes, there is so much good going on. It's so true.
Yes. So you wrote in, and of course, the other end of the leash. That's what I'd like to talk about. Humankind is drawn to dogs because they're so like ourselves, bumbling, affectionate, confused, easily disappointed, eager to be amused, grateful for kindness and the least attention. I mean, that is us. That is us. But of course, as close as they are to us, they're also, we got to celebrate their dogdom. And that's what you also, you write about that. But the other end of the leash, what made you write that groundbreaking book?
That was because of my academic training. When I went back to school, I think I was, oh my God, I was so old. I was a freshman I don't remember, my late 40s or something. My memory is so bad now. but yeah, I went back to school as a very, very, very much older student. And I studied primate behavior. It just happened at UW-Madison. There were some brilliant scientists who did a lot of field work. Chuck Snowden was one of my mentors. And so I took several courses in primate behavior, and I was literally in a dog training class. I don't think it was mine at that point, but I was literally in a dog training class, and I watched people. They had leashes in their hand, first of all, and they were really quick. If they had a leash in their hand, they were really quick to jerk it. It was really hard for them not to. And then they would repeat themselves, and they would go, sit, 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 sit. And I just had this image of this primate video I'd just seen of a chimp going, ooh, 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 ooh. Sit, 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 sit. ooh, 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 ooh. And then the chimps would get something in their hand and they whip it around. And I'm like, wait. So I had all this background in primate behavior and going to classes. It just literally, there was literally there was a moment in time I went like, oh my God, we're primates. And that's driving a lot of, we repeat things. We get overly excited. We get frustrated. Sometimes our default is aggression. You put something in our hand and we do weird things with it. But we're also very playful. So I just went, that's where it came from. It was like, wait, let's look, because I was trained as an ethologist in behavior of an animal in its natural environment. So I just was like, well, let's just look at these two species. And so that's what I did, is I just did a deep dive in what's the same and what's different about our behavior. It was really fun. It was really, really a fun thing to do.
Well, you mentioned
Yeah.
play, and
Yeah.
play being so important for humans. And I think it was in the book as well that you basically said, look, we play as well. It's not just dogs that play, we play into adulthood. We play all these games. We play golf, we play tennis, we play football, we run around chasing each other. I mean, that's what we still play. And our dogs are no different. So play, that's something that connects us, can help with the bond. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, going back to my academic work, one of the things that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't studied a whole range of mammalian behavior is how rare play is in adult animals. It's extremely rare. I write about that in the other end of the leash. You see it in young mammals. You see it in river otters, which is partly why we love them, because they still do it when they're adult. But it's very, very rare in adult mammals. And so I think it's part of the bond. I mean, look at how many people love to play fetch with their dog. And, I made a joke about balls. It's like I made sort of bad, risque jokes about how, people love playing with balls and dogs love playing with balls. I mean, how many other species do that? I mean, there are a few like horses now. Like it's a great enrichment to put a big, huge ball in your horse's pen and watch them play with it. I've seen cows play with them. It's a riot anyway. But so I think you're so right, Victoria, that play is so important as glue, as a way to bond us together. If you look at how we bond through play, and I'm not a sociologist, but like you, I've read a lot about it, and we know that there are all kinds of ways to people bond really closely. But one of the ways with the male of our species, who has a little bit more trouble sometimes doing that than females, is sports. It's through play, right? It's either by being a spectator or by being a participant. So play is such a great way to bond together, give your dog a better life, give your dog exercise. I use play all the time to teach my dogs manners, just all the time, because it's just so easy. I'll just literally this morning, I was outside with the dogs and I said, Maggie, lie down, stay. And then I threw her little rubber toy thing and then I said, find it. And so, off she went. And I need that, they're working border collies. I have sheep. There's competition. Maggie's retired now, but Skip is a competition sheep trial dog. And we go walk around off leash in places I feel like are safe, but I need dogs who really, really do listen to me at certain times so we can both have the life that we want. So play is just an invaluable way to teach not just manners, but also emotional control, right? I mean, that's I don't need to tell you, right? Emotional control and frustration is one of the biggest factors I see in what's called aggression, in dogs hurting people, right? And so teaching dogs Just like, I think people need to learn that, and not everybody does, as we well know. But it's really important in dogs. So it's a fun way to teach that and just sort of turn them into grown-ups. Dogs need to be grown-ups. They need to act like, we're in a society, and to make a society work, there's certain things we do and there's certain things we don't do.
Now, you say you have sheep. You have
I
two
do.
dogs. You have,
I
I know
do.
Maggie May. Sometimes I think you would
Yeah.
call Princess Margaret, which of course I love.
Yeah.
And then you have your Border Collie.
Well, both. Yeah, Maggie's
Both,
a
they're
border
both
collie.
Border Collie too.
Yep, yep.
Yes.
Maggie's a border collie. She's just turned 12, but I bought her when she was 14 months old from a really, really good, responsible trainer in Idaho, Diane Deal. But she didn't have a lot of training on her. So I'm very proud of the fact that she and I was able to get our greatest accomplishment was to get fifth at a very, very difficult sheepdog trial in the high open big deal class, right? The big hats, I call them. And so Skip is always going to be 8 in March. And he actually came from Ireland. And so he still competes in sheepdog trials. I'm not great at it. I'm just not. I'm a muller. That's why I write. I was really good working with aggressive dogs when I was younger. Not now. I think what I feel proudest of was that I was really good working with the people. I love that you brought that up, Victoria, because I used to have people come to me and when I taught at university and say, "Oh, I love what you do. I so want to do what you do. I love animals. I love animals more than people. I don't really like people." And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's who you're going to be working with. I don't know about you. Did you find this happen that when you were actually working with a dog and a couple, a dog and dog owners, that when you spend your energy training the person, but when you got really tired, you just sort of went to the dog because it was so much easier to teach the dog.
So much easier.
Right? Did that happen to you?
So much. And I say the same to trainers. Don't become a trainer if you don't love people as well, or at least like them and respect them. But because that's going to be your work. That is it. It's almost like 80% person, 20% dog. But and even filming the show, It's Me or the Dog, when we're doing the kind of the scenes with people and I'm explaining stuff or we're doing interviews and stuff, then that's the stuff where I can after lunch get kind of tired and really a bit sleepy. Yeah. But when I work with those dogs, I am on fire.
Yes. Yes, you are, by the way.
Well, yes. Time just goes by really fast. I feel energized. I feel inspired. I feel like every dog teaches me something. Some dogs will humble me, which I think is no bad thing. Some dogs will teach me. And I feel inspired. I have to take a quick break, but after the break, I'd love to come back and talk about Will. Yeah. Your Border Collie, Will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and why you wrote the book. All right, we'll be right back. Are you a dog behavior geek like me? Join me for my absolute favorite weekend of the year, the 2025 Dog Behavior Conference. If you've attended before, you know how special the DBC is. And if you've never joined us for this amazing 3-day online event, it's truly a one-of-a-kind gathering of like-minded dog geeks, pet pros, trainers, and animal advocates from all over the world. Registration is now open at dogbehaviorconference.com, and the virtual live conference takes place on April the 4th to the 6th. Your registration gives you access to all 3 days of the conference online, as well as the ability to replay all of the presentations and live Q&As from the conference for up to 1 year as much as you like. Our list of speakers for the DBC are truly amazing. Carmelita Uftaheidi, Amber Batson, Irit Bloom, Tom Candy, Sarah Fisher, Andrew Hale, Sindor Pangal, Joe Pay, Julia Robertson, Zazie Todd, Nikki Tudge, and of course, myself. So, reserve your spot today at dogbehaviorconference.com. That's dogbehaviorconference.com. I'll see you there. You wrote a book called The Education of Will. And I can't read this whole excerpt that you also have on your website. So if anybody wants to go check it out, go to patriciamcconnell.com. But it made me cry.
Aw,
This excerpt.
aw.
But the book made me cry so many times. I have to say, you just get your tissues out. But it's also
Sorry.
really hopeful because you learn and you talk about your journey with fear and anxiety and how you, there was a defining moment when you kind of got to the end of your tether, as it were, with Will, and you finally recognized that this dog and you had something in common.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just a little very brief backstory. So I have a history of sexual violence and trauma. One of the worst things that happened to me is had nothing to do with rape or sexual predation. This dear man electrician fell 5 stories and landed literally at my feet and died. And that just changes your brain. I mean, literally, we know now it actually physically changes your brain. Basically what it teaches is that at any second, absolutely anything horrific could happen. So you always need to be on, right? So I thought I was, I had dealt with a lot of this, right? I had been through counseling. I had worked on this. I thought I was doing pretty well. And then this little puppy came with really good breeding, lovely little puppy, who basically acted like he had PTSD. I mean, I'm not saying he did, but he was just terrified, aggressively terrified of other dogs. He saw this little tiny puppy. I took him to the vet clinic when he was a little, 9 weeks or I don't know, 12 weeks old. And he saw this little fluff ball of a Bichon or something. And he went crazy. And his face looked terrifying. I mean, he had that, that flat-eyed look, right?
That's terrifying.
The ear, ears pinned and the eyes elsewhere. And it was like this little puppy baby. So dealing with that, but it wasn't, I just sort of, basically what I realized is that I was setting him off and he was setting me off. It was like, he was super noise phobic and I was super noise phobic. So a loud above noise, just both of us just sort of rose off the living room floor. So what I realized, I was thinking about rehoming him because I wasn't the best person for him, frankly, but I didn't know where to send him because he was pretty bad. And I just, at that moment, I had talked to my staff about what should I do, and I just talked to me like I was a client, and I was putting him in the truck, and I'm gonna cry. I just looked at his face, and I was like, he was trying so hard to be a good boy. He wanted to jump in the truck, and I was like, wait, I didn't have it open. And I said, wait. And I just looked at his face, and it was like, he was trying so hard to be a good boy. And I just felt like that's what I've done all my life, is tried to be so hard to be a good person, to be a good woman, to be a good person, to be good everything. And life is hard when you have PTSD. So that's when I was like, I'm either going to I'm going to help me so I can help you, or I'm going to, find you another home or something. So that's a lot of what the book is about.
I'm going to read this little excerpt. I looked at his imploring face, and my heart opened up so wide and fast that my knees went weak. As I released Willie from his stay and he climbed into the car, I knew that I could never send him away. I sat beside him while he licked the tears off my cheeks, and I whispered, I will, Willie, I will move heaven and earth to try to help us both. Well, that was it. When I read that, I was just a puddle. But I think it is so inspiring because how many people have been at their wits' end with their dogs going, I do not know what to do. I do not know how to move forward. I'm completely overwhelmed. I'm trying my hardest. I see people like that all the time. It's the reason why I'm a trainer, because, hey, I might not get it all right, but I'm going to darn well try to help people who go through that. You went through that with Will. That's why this book is so powerful, because it charts that journey that painful journey with your own trauma, but then also with this dog's difficulties, his challenges living in society, in the world. Aren't so many dogs doing that right now, even more so as our lives get busier? As
Oh,
we are, as there are more cars on the road, and there are more, we're not at home as much, and they're confined. And I mean, aren't we seeing that more and more?
yes, I agree. And I think along with everything you mentioned, our expectations have changed. And in some ways that's good. But in some ways it's like people are expecting dogs not to be dogs anymore. They're expecting people to fit into our lives sort of seamlessly. And, they are still dogs. They are not humans. And, your point about seeing clients who are at that same space is it's so important for everybody listening, whether you're a trainer or a dog owner, a dog lover, you have a friend who has a problem. Part of what's great about society now is that if we have a serious problem with a dog, maybe the dog is dangerous, potentially dangerous, or at least aggressive, big, serious behavioral problems are driving you crazy. When I grew up in Arizona, people took the dog out in the back and they shot him. So, the great thing is that people are trying so hard to make this work. The not great thing is there's so many great trainers out there, like, everything you're doing, Victoria, so many other people are trying so hard to help them, but there's not enough help yet. And there's not enough understanding, I don't think, in the world, in the culture, of how hard it is, of how exhausted some of these people are, of how they haven't slept, of how they haven't had. I had clients who didn't have company for 5 years. I had a client who sewed her own arm up herself without lidocaine, so she didn't have to report the bite, right? Because she
Wow.
might lose her dog. Yeah, she showed it to me. She didn't make it up. I was like, yeah. So there's the potential for so much suffering, and it's so great that there are people out there doing everything they can. And I'm sure this happens to you. Maybe it doesn't, but there were cases where I felt like if you balance the safety of a human being with the potential of this dog, I don't feel like I can help you enough, to make. In other words, we're talking about, do you have to euthanize your dog? And that was never my call. I never told anybody that they should do that. It's not my call, right? That's the owner's call. But there were dogs that was so, profoundly dangerous. They hurt so many people in so many different contexts. But that's really rare, right? That's
Yes.
really rare. If people have the knowledge and the base, which again, so many more people do, thanks to, yes, the other end of the leash, but look at everything you've done. Look at all the other great books out there. Karen Pryor just passed away
She did.
about 2 weeks ago. And just, that was heartbreaking to me. Jane Goodall is one of my heroes, but I honestly believe that Karen Pryor is up there
She
as
is.
somebody who changed the world as much as Jane Goodall did for the better.
100% she did. I had, again, I was doing these live shows, and she came to see me when I was in Massachusetts. And my husband and I had lunch with her the next day at her house, and she had all these birds. I remember that. But she gave me some really important pieces of advice, and she was an absolute rock star. But again, I don't think given her due, because of how just incredible and what a game changer she was. But she truly, I don't think there's a trainer out there, or at least a good one, that hasn't read her books. I mean, it just, she really was. And so, when you have met, I feel like that when you have met people like that are such groundbreakers like yourself, it's again, it's really inspirational. And I think what really gets me is the fact that you chose kindness. I've chosen kindness. My mantra is kindness is powerful. It doesn't seem so now in our big world where there's so much horror.
Yeah.
And where it seems that power and corruption is being celebrated, but that's another thing. But you said, you quote, and I quote, I want to revolve around kindness. I want to be someone who sheds kindness like a Pyrenees sheds fur in spring, who sends tufts of it into the breeze like a dandelion. I was like, yeah, you go. I can see it because I had a friend of mine who had a Pyrenees, and that's a lot of hair. I totally could see it.
You can see the air, the fluffs of the air.
Yeah.
And you know, and I thank you for reading that quote, by the way. I know that was from my blog.
Yeah.
It was very good of you. But I also want to say, I can't always do that. I mean, I think, you know, because when I'm, you know, I'm on right now, right? And so, and I think I am generally a basically really, truly kind person. I'm pretty sure of that. I have a lot of faults. We don't have enough time to list them, but I think I'm generally a kind person. But I can't live up to that all the time. And, you know, and I have to forgive myself. I mean, I raised my voice with Maggie yesterday when I was scared she wasn't listening, and I was scared something that happened to her, and I didn't like what came out of my mouth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just made one of those, like, and it just sounded wrong. It just sounded, oh, I hated it. So I'm not perfect. And I think one of the things that many of us have to work on, because I run into this with a lot of trainers, is forgiving ourselves for not being perfect. You know, I know I years ago, I talked to a woman who said she made a pledge to always be positive, and she raised her voice to her dog in frustration and exhaustion, and she has to completely quit because she failed. And I was like, oh, hon, where's the kindness to yourself? And I think that's one of the hardest things to do is no matter how strongly we believe in positive reinforcement and kindness to dogs and horses and other animals, sometimes it's harder to do it to our own species, and it's really hard to do to ourselves. And so I think that's one of the things all of us need to work on. I need to work on it. You know, I do meditation. I'm in a meditation class, and there's some, you know, beautiful loving kindness meditations that you can do. Because I'm just not exactly every moment who I want to be. And I think that's really important for everybody out there to know that none of us are perfect, and all of us are just trying. You know, that great line is that we do the best we can with what we know, you know, with what's happening at the time, you know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I see kindness as, I do see it as powerful. I do see that we're people at the end of the day. So we are going to, we're not going to be the best version of ourselves that we want to be. I know personally for myself, I'm a fighter as well. I'm a scrapper. I was called Flyer when I was younger, because I sort of like was just, yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit of a scrapper. I'm not talking violence or anything, but but I'll go in the ditches with you. I truly will, and I will fight my corner. But I am informed by kindness. And so if I feel like I am letting myself down, I will try and check myself. But it doesn't mean you can't fight your corner. It doesn't mean to say that you can't stand up for what is right. Kindness doesn't mean you take it on the chin and just lie down and go, okay, well, you know, run all over me. It doesn't. It means that you're informed by your belief, and you try and do the best you can. Before we finish, the other exciting thing before we leave is that you're writing a novel.
Yes. I started dabbling into fiction, just literally for the heck of it. I'm just going to do something. I love to read. I love fiction. I love nonfiction. I love beautiful writing. I always have. So, and I love mysteries. So I thought, I'm going to write a mystery. I actually had a scene in my head of a sheepdog trial in which something happens. And I was like, I could start a book like that. So I've been working on it for 5-6 years. It got picked up by Kensington Books.
Wow.
Incredibly exciting. These things take a long time to come out.
Yeah.
It comes out in March 26th. But yes, but it's out there in the world,
So excited for that.
Yeah, so I'm crazy excited about it. It's got tons of dogs in it, and I am asked relentlessly, does any dog die?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how stupid do you think?
Yeah.
No,
It's like,
no.
no. It's like we can't watch a movie if a dog dies. It just can't
No.
happen. Yeah.
I will tell you though, I will warn you though, that it's not a cozy. I mean, there's some dark stuff in here, and there's some drama related to dogs. So yeah. So it's yeah.
Be ready, but we're excited for that.
Be ready.
Patricia
Yes.
McConnell, I am so happy that you could join me today. If people want to know more and to read your blog, they go to patriciamcconnell.com.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It is that your writing again is just so beautiful. And I would encourage everybody to subscribe to your blog, because not only do you learn a hell of a lot of stuff, but it's also really heartwarming. You learn about life too. It's not just dog centric. You learn about life. Thank you so much for everything you've done, but that you continue to do. And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, you warrior woman. You are an inspiration to so many of us. Thank you.
Well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining me for this fabulous podcast, and I will see you again on another episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell, and follow her on Twitter at Victoria S. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.